And we are back again on another fine Monday for another installment of Today in Esports, your main hub for all of the happenings across the world when it comes down to esports. As always, my name is Andy. Joining with me is Chris, and after a wonky weekend, we find ourselves back on the desk, man.
We do, and it was a crazy weekend from major upsets in the Blast and to, well, some upsets in the LTA South as well. We have a lot to go over.
Yeah, just because one IP has upsets doesn't mean that the other ones are definitely going to be following suit. That is absolutely going to be the case going forward. We're going to start talking about VCT champions pairs. As you are all very aware, going in towards the fall season also means that we're back in towards champion season. And with all of that entailed, there's only so many teams that we can actually have at this event from each region. Starting things off, we're going to be talking about the Americas. 3 of 4 have already been decided. 4 of 4 out of China have already been decided, Chris, but we still have 3 more, 2 from EMEA, and then 1 also coming from Pacific.
We do, and starting off with the Americas, though, we're taking a look at this bracket. Sentinels versus G2 in the upper bracket, NRG versus C9 in that lower bracket, and we're going to take a look at who was able to take that first place in the grand finals. We're starting off with G2 versus Sentinels.
And Leaf is back. He finally comes back after a hiatus. Shout out Baby Bay, of course. The old guard was able to at least get G2 into an alpha number 2 perspective, but they go up against their old rivals that they faced off so many different times in Sentinels, and they were able to sweep them completely 2-0. Nobody really saw that one coming. Here's the final few moments of G2 taking Sentinels all the way here at the end. Jogamo on the Neon, adding more flexibility towards his pool, finds 3 in the conclusion of this round, but you can't even call it a honeymoon phase, man. G2 are just back at full force.
They are, and then we're going to take a look at that lower semifinal, C9 versus NRG in this chaotic last round of Haven, and it ultimately would be though C9 coming up clutch here, saw him getting that kill, but it's going to have to take on the last member. Net will finalize that kill, get them that first map, and move on to number 2.
Yep, and towards game number 2, this was the moment of the series that descended into an absolute beautiful chaos. Here's the final few moments. Oxy looking past his monitor to the other side of NRG like, hey guys, come on. I just want a knife fight, don't worry about it, until it's all just baited. A jump scare from a Viper right behind of Scuba. That's going to be nightmare fuel going forward, but tied up the series for Lotus, but then NRG able to put Cloud9 to rest.
Yeah, and this time though, Som will get that final kill to end off the map, and they are starting again this miraculous run in the losers bracket, and they are continuing it with the domination of C9 there. They will move on to that lower bracket finals where we'll see them face off against Sentinel. Of course, G2 sitting really pretty in that grand final spot, waiting to see who their opponent will be.
This is an organizational matchup that we have not seen in quite some time. Again, from NRG's time spent in VCT Americas back with the FNS days of Stage 1's past. We haven't been able to see NRG go on this very deep run, so it is a sight for some eyes. Coming in towards this map, able to take a 2-0 lead versus Sentinels. Nobody really saw that one coming. Sentinels did bounce back, forcing out the Corrode map number 4, where, again, NRG, throughout all of the season, have looked stellar on, and this is an ego chow out of Sentinels, thinking that they could beat NRG in those final few moments. 13-8 is where they will finally be put to rest, and thus NRG cementing their ticket to Paris.
Yes, and now we go to the grand finals for the seeding points and to see who's the best, but man, G2 just come out on fire. There it is, a knife in the back from Mata to lead them off, holding off, and now we're going into map number 2.
Dude, Mata's so good, man. I think that when you're looking from NRG's like breath of fresh air, it is from like Mata's flexibility, being able to be the more aggressive player, being able to find these entries plus some extra ones as well. Definitely something to be keeping an eye out for NRG in the upcoming few weeks. But G2, again, like we were talking about, Leaf back in towards the mix. They can finally get themselves back over towards Ascent. You look at their complete composition. Leaf there on the chamber. You also got the complete, I guess, confirmation of Jogamo on his pick as well. Like, it's going to be so tough to deal with this team. Baby Bay getting the, I guess, the choice to raise the trophy first. Again, he was that stand-in for Leaf throughout the entirety of the season, where he was able to assist G2 to be the #1 team at the end.
Yeah, and there we go. We are cementing our final teams. We do have NRG leading that final spot for Americas going on after their amazing run through that lower bracket. Many upsets had to been had for them to get there, but they look great, and they're going to have some tough competition going forward, though.
Yep, I shout out NRG, of course, off of that Herculean lower bracket run. They were able to cement their ticket to Champions Paris, where they were going to be joining Sentinels, who they beat in 4 maps and then lost the G2 in 3. But later on in the show, we're going to be breaking down more things that are going on as far as VCT is concerned. Again, EMEA and Pacific still have some teams that they have to be sent, but maybe you want to aim as good as Leaf, and maybe you could end up finding yourself on the Champions Paris stage. What better way to do that than with AIM Labs? It is the world's #1 AIM trainer. Here is a word from our sponsor.
Games are about competition, a way to test our skill and prove we are better. Challenge is in our nature. We need to know what we're capable of. How far can we go? It's a question that drives millions of gamers to push themselves and prove that it's only a matter of sheer will. Ever since first-person shooters came into the esports scene, players have never stopped defying the odds through the most important mechanic of them all: aim. Aim is everything. It's a set of skills that needs to be trained, and this is where science and gaming meet in AIM Labs. The AIM trainer that redefines what gaming means, because science doesn't leave anything to chance. Winning is never a matter of luck. Every brief moment of greatness takes constant and unrelenting preparation, and that's exactly what AIM Labs is about. We enable players to thrive and upset the balance. Together, we elevate play.
And staying in the Riot sphere, we're going to go ahead and over to the Rift, though, as League of Legends is continuing its elimination phase in the LTA. And, well, what a number of matches that we had this weekend. I am going to tell you, we had some crazy picks and some crazy games. But let's go ahead and jump into LTA North, where we did see some upsets, as well as 100 Thieves coming out on top. And, well, Quid decided that he wanted to continue his run and say that it was only a fluke in the beginning. He is going to get a massive kill here towards the end of game number 1, and 100 Thieves come out on top at first.
Yeah, 100 Thieves just came out absolutely swinging. I mean, I got to shout out Quids. His mid picks continuously taking APA to the absolute brink. Not something I had on my bingo card this weekend, man.
Not at all. I mean, looking over here, they're setting up for it again, and they're just team fights in the middle game have been so clean going out this whole entire time. Look, him jumping from that flank position, getting the kill onto the AD carry. Now we're swapping over to game number 3. Yes, once again, these dragon fights have been pivotal for them, but look at Quid once again just jumping off, and he is doing such a good job. Gonna get that first kill onto APA with that solo on the rise. Turns the team fight for his team in once again, and look at these stats here. And what it doesn't tell you is over the series, 23 and 30.
Fantastic. When you're looking from Quid's perspective, all from the red side too. And when you're thinking from a laning perspective in that third game versus Talia, with all the assistance that APA was getting from the opposite side, again, no easy days, but 100 Thieves starting in the lower bracket, beating Lion, and then beating TL in 3 games, setting themselves up versus a date versus Cloud9. Again, nobody expected that LTA North.
No, it's going to be such a banger going forward. And as you did see, Shopify Rebellion did get taken down by FlyQuest. So FlyQuest will be waiting in those grand finals to see who they will face, to see who will get that chance to go to Worlds first. But that wasn't the only region going on. LTA South had probably one of the biggest upsets that we have seen this week go on, and we'll jump into it with Loud versus Furia. And here it is, Griffin brought on for this final split to help turn things around for Loud, and he has done such an amazing job since the beginning of this the split.
Not an easy matchup. Again, when you think about impact out of Furia's perspective, I think that their bot line definitely comes out. Jojo and his ability to roam to set up the rest of the lanes for success is a big shout out for them. But Griffin, as far as the jungle is concerned, this dude was everywhere, support jungle or carry. This guy was making sure that his team was set up for utter success. But also got to shout out the top lane too. Guigo really did struggle in these consistent matchups.
He really did, and I mean, we're talking about what Griffin can and can't do. He's setting up kills, but look at this. Sits over, knows Otacon is low, gets the smite, then instantly turns on this fight to continue to help his team get the rest of the kills here. And this team has looked so good going forward. This is a team that came into this. Look, they beat, finally, Furia. They're taking down the Split 2 champions. This team is making a run to try to get to Worlds this year.
Yeah, man, it's going to be very interesting to be able to see what is going to accumulate, again, with VKS just barely chilling there in that grand finals as well, to be able to see who's going to be hoisting that trophy, again, going in towards Worlds. The LTA South, in my opinion, has been an absolute banger as far as the upset is concerned. I'm very interested to be able to watch how that one's going to develop going forward.
Yes, and we'll have to see. Of course, we'll have more elimination matches this weekend for both LTA North and South heading into the LTA Championship. But LEC finalized their groups. We did have the groups and ready to set into playoffs, so we'll go ahead and take a look at that bracket real quick. But first, before we get to there, let's hear what Griffin had to say after his win.
So Griffin, you just won against Tatu, the champion of the last split, of the second split. How would you rank yourself in a power ranking of junglers right now? Because you just beat like the guy that won the last split.
I don't really think too much about that. I just want to see, play against the competition and see how it is. All I wanted to prove this split was that we're a competitive team, and I think it was kind of hard to prove it when we were the first 2 weeks. We lost against strong teams, and then we won against weaker teams. You can just say, oh, we just won against weaker teams. But I think now winning today means a lot to me, because I just wanted to prove that we're competitive and we can go for the title. And I think we beat a team. It was upset, right? So I'm glad we won today and showed people that we are a competitive team. We can compete and we can win.
Definitely good, not getting held up on who's the best jungler, but just making sure that their team can get there. That it was a tough road for them to get through Furia, but they finally did, and we'll have to see how far they can continue this run. But again, as I said, LEC does have their playoff bracket set for us to start this week, and the group stage is finished in a pretty amazing way. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this bracket here. Of course, in the upper bracket, we have Koi versus Fnatic, G2 versus KC, and then that lower bracket, Dynex versus BDS, and Team Heretics versus Vitality.
Yeah, Carmine Corp, again, starting off in the upper bracket. I think a lot of people are going to be able to see what dents they're going to be able to make in towards it, because there's been a massive periscope over what G2 Esports have not been able to do on the international stage, and it's all going to start as far as their region is concerned. They've been pushed to the brink by so many different teams in the past, but if they can dominantly win their way going in towards Worlds, I think that as far as an LEC is concerned, you feel a lot better going in towards that international event. But anything can happen as far as that bracket is concerned. It's shaking up nicely.
Yeah, and well, the one thing they probably are a little bit happy about is they don't have to face this time MKoi, who did beat them twice to where they weren't able to go to MSI. So this time they have a little bit of a switch up, so maybe they're happy about that.
It should be very interesting to be able to see how that second round matchup will end up playing off, because, I mean, you will end up having MKoi going in towards that second series for G2 if you do end up being KC. So you got a lot of preparation for that one. You can only imagine that it could end up panning out in one of different directions. But we got more League of Legends to be breaking down. Of course, we've only barely touched the premise as far as what League of Legends has to offer, because we haven't talked about the LCK yet. But with that all being said, we got to talk about Counterstrike. Of course, if you're unfamiliar, Blast Season 2 going over in London are currently going through their qualifiers before of their main stage bracket. And if you're unaware, Spirit have been underneath the magnifying glass, mostly looking at Donk and what he can do and what his team has not been able to do.
That is exactly true. And I mean, what we're saying he can do is he can drop a 1.74. What his team can't do is follow up and give him the support he needs for them to be able to win. We're going to start taking a look at one of their first games that they played against Furia, where Donk, once again, tried out coming his best. But unfortunately, when we see him get dropped here in a second, the rest of the team just can't follow up.
Team Spirit following up incredibly short as far as Esports World Cup is concerned. You go back in towards Blast Season 2. This was the team, man. Donk was on top of the world ever since IEM Cologne, and going in towards this series versus Furia, like Chris had already mentioned, this may not have devolved the way you had once thought. Even for this pistol, great centering, good shooting coming through, but Donk, as the entry rifleman, he's supposed to be that guy that needs to swing to be able to find a sufficient amount of damage, enough kills to be able to set his team up for the trades to be able to close out the rounds. But Donk was living up towards that aspect, but if he was not alive all the way towards the end of the round, like what you're seeing right here with the AWP, it felt like Spirit were barely, if at all, winning rounds.
Yeah, now what do you want him to do? He's doing it with the AWP, he's now doing it with the rifles, but the rest of his team can't follow up. Yes, he looks happy here, but until we get to this round, now we see Furia on match point. Chopper trying to do his best, taking out Fallen, but again, once we see Donk fall here in a second, they just can't seem to clutch up afterwards. We're seeing them try to check around the boxes, getting a couple of shots off there, but there it is, Donk down, and then it just spells disaster for the rest of the round.
Either Chopper was late or Donk was over aggressively channeling towards the top staircase there at Sandwich. But whatever it may be, like I was saying, is like Donk can't do it by himself, albeit with the stat line that he was able to walk away with this one was fantastic. 105 ADR is fantastic, or ACS, excuse me, but still, you felt like that for Mirage, that should be Team Spirit's map every single day and twice on Sunday, but it just was not. Furia had a 1-0 lead going in towards Nuke.
Yes, and as you said, on to Nuke here. We did see Spirit start off strong. This is what people are expecting them to go into. And again, Donk putting out 3 kills here to try to get this round to go up to 4-0. And again, it is this strong start. But again, as we said, and I'm saying again, Donk doing all the work. When he's not here, they start falling off.
Yeah, again, found the opening 4 rounds. It was then a 5-round swing. Here's the 4th in I guess Shiro trying to at least deny it. Almost got was able to get the no-scope, at least to fall and jumping over top of the railings, but then wasn't expecting the double stack. So 4 rounds off the bounce go Furia. Then the subsequent 5th, which if you've ever played a game in Nuke for Spirit to be able to win the first 4 T-sided rounds, it is not something that you see every single day. But Furia able to showcase their prowess on the terrorist side. They were just taking sites left, right, and center, especially on their offensive side. They ripped, was 7 rounds in a row, just putting Spirit on the back foot to be on map point for as long as they did, knowing that just one wrong mistake out of Spirit, whether it was Donk or his teammates, would spell the lower bracket. And wouldn't you know it, lightning would strike here for Spirit. Furia would clutch things up here. Not enough time with the bomb being planted. It would have been darn close even with the kid, but Fallen, happy for his team. Furia, send Team Spirit down the lower bracket.
Oh man, and unfortunately, they tried to get the clutch into the overtime there, but just not enough. But again, we're looking at these stats, that 1.74 rating for his team, and they just can't follow up clutch on it. As you said, we need that support behind Donk. Spirit have to realize that it's not the Donk show. It needs to be the Spirit show for them to continue that success that they saw a couple of weeks ago and a couple of events ago.
Yeah, look, if it was Chopper map number 1 on Mirage, Sway had a really bad time there on Nuke, but obviously, we could be finger pointing on a whole bunch of different aspects, but like Chris was already wonderfully stating, is that it just can't be the Donk show. We've seen so many different teams being able to rally behind their entry riflemen and be able to set themselves up for the trade. So it almost feels like that something is not incredibly right. But Spirit, continuing on through the lower bracket, at the time of this recording, are slated to play G2 Esports in a qualification match for the playoff event that is going to be happening at the end of this week. We'll give you certain updates as we are continuously talking about Counterstrike throughout this show. But just because we talk about Team Spirit and their domination doesn't mean that we cannot talk about another team that is about to be falling from absolute grace. I'm talking about Team Liquid, of course, and well, if you're familiar, Team Liquid, as far as an organization is concerned, are doing quite well. But Team Liquid, after making it to LAN and being bounced by Team Spirit, have really been struggling against the top teams, and their VRS rankings are absolutely underneath the threat. If you're unaware for VRS rankings, the more teams that you beat ahead of the ladder, you're going to end up getting better seeding going forward and thus invited to other events. Team Liquid going forward off of these handful of losses are about to be under threat to be bounced out of not just the Open for London, but also a handful of events going forward.
Yeah, and especially when you're looking at something like this, Zontic's getting the kills here, and you have to think, a team that's not getting the correct VRS rating, so not getting into tier 1, you know, and you're losing out on so many events if you're unable to qualify here. The microscope is not, they're putting underneath a whole telescope here to try to see what they can do, because at that point, you're at risk of, you know, your professional, you know, career if they're unable to make these tier 1 events.
You can see just the frustration on a lot of their faces as well. I mean, to face Team Spirit down here in the lower bracket again, nobody was expecting the loss to Furia, so nobody was expecting for TL to have to go up against Team Spirit. They played them close, especially on Dust 2. I mean, they were able to at least get them close to winning a map, but throughout all intents and purposes, Liquid going in towards these top series against other top-notch competitors are continuously coming up short. They played Vitality close, still lost that series. Even going up against Furia, who knows if they were going to be able to win that series either, but you already said it wonderfully, Chris. Team Liquid, if they cannot win future events, again, they're only scheduled to play in the Fisher Playground and nothing else, that if they can't win against any other teams going forward and increase their VRS rankings, they might not get invited to any other Tier 1 events.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how they continue to do, if they can make any run here to see if they can get back in those Tier 1 events. But right now, as I said, they're under the Hubble telescope at this point to try to get back into it, not just a microscope. But as we said, we're going through a lot. We'll keep you updated on anything that we have going forward, as there are matches being played at the time of this recording.
Yep, and as we are continuing on with Counterstrike, if you've been keeping a close eye on HLTV or even on the timeline, as the artist formerly known as Twitter, you're probably very aware of some roster mania that is currently going on. But we're going to talk about that in a few bits, because as we were already talking about, there's still a lot more matchups just to be talking about as a whole. FaZe, we're going to be going up against Na'Vi just to start things off. And, well, if you're unfamiliar as far as those two organizations, very tailored as far as the Counter-Strike scene is concerned. But FaZe coming in towards this series, Chris, are a different belly of the beast. Na'Vi have been absolutely fumbling their series throughout a lot of different top teams, and FaZe have been increasing their chances, especially with the recent pickup of Jacob.
Well, if that knife is an indication of fumbling, I don't know what is there, but we're going to switch over here to Vitality, just barely beating out Gamer Legions 2-1. I mean, this team is another team that we've been talking about that is a little bit under the microscope now, with their inability to make it to grand finals that we've seen lately, but they do pull out that win.
Mouse versus G2 Esports would be next on the docket. G2 actually had this opening map pick of Ancient, and this is a map that they've actually taken off of Spirit, but Mouse have continuously improved their Ancient, so even the commentators found this extremely egregious to ego chow them on that map, of which they would lose that series 0-2. And then, of course, the aforementioned Fudia versus Spirit.
Yes, and well, we went over this time and a half again, but it is going to be Furia taking that win. And we finally see some of the frustration from Donk. In the previous clips, we only saw him a little bit happy from some of the, wins he was getting, but there's that frustration of him dropping that high rating and his team not being able to follow up.
Yeah, insane scenes. Again, we got so much more to cover as far as Counter-Strike is concerned, so you want to make sure that your butts stay glued towards your seat. But we're going to be putting the mouse and keyboard up on the shelf ever so slightly as we throw it over to Livefire for a reaction towards the past weekend of some Halo Esports with our good friend Eli.
Guys, there was a ton of Halo action this week, including the LVT Pro Halo Series, as well as the Open Series number 10, the last one we would ever see. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. We would start off with FaZe Clan against Shopify. This was the only match that really mattered this week for the LVT Halo Pro League, as it would determine who the second place seed would be going into the LAN. They ultimately defeated Shopify 4-1 in their endeavor and earned that second place seed, did Shopify Rebellion. That means that they'll automatically start in winner's bracket round 2. On the other side of things, of course, Optic would be the team to finish in first place. Congratulations to all the teams that will make it. But the most exciting part of the weekend was, of course, the HCS Open on Saturday. This was the last match we would see where Envy would fall to SSG 3-0. However, this would not be the last time we would see Envy, as they would tomorrow make the losers bracket run. But before we look at that, let's look at Shopify Rebellion's path to the grand finals. On the winner's side, Frosty with the huge ninja into the perfect shots on the Penguin for the double. They would defeat FaZe Clan 3-0, then face off against Optic in the winner's finals. And check out this clip from Last Shot. I mean, Last Shot absolutely takes over. Hills at 3-2. They need this hill to force the sudden death hill, and Formal has no chance, falls down as the last player. He would then move on. They would cap that last hill to secure their spot in grand finals. But let's take a look back at Envy. They had, up to this point, defeated Omit 3-1, C9 3-0, and then face off against FaZe Clan, a team that they've been battling with all year long. Descendant would get the clutch double kill to close out the series. Envy were looking absolutely dominant, and so it's not exactly a win people expected them to get. Taking a look at the lower bracket run, they had defeated 3 teams in a row and awaited the winner between Complexity and Space Station. So Complexity would ultimately win that against Space Station. And look at this, 3 players staring at you. You're not getting those rockets. King Nick falls. The team shot from Envy is incredible. They would then kill Cherished for the last kill. And this was just one of their wins in this series. This would actually go all the way to Game 5, 48-41 on your screen. It's basically a done deal. Piggy finds a back smack onto Ryanoob. And then just a few moments later, the last kill would go in. It's Descendant once again. Envy secured themselves a spot in the elimination finals against Optic Gaming, which is a team that they had previously never beat before. This series would start with a banger. In game number 1, Piggy runs the flag. Looks like Precision is the one to ultimately run it back in. You can see on the score they're down by a flag cap with 10 seconds to go. Descendant once again clutches up, gets the kill that's necessary. Flag goes in with 2 seconds remaining. That forces an overtime. Descendant, I've said his name too many times. He gets the quick scope onto Renegade, and they're running the flag. Only Formal is left on the map, the only player that could possibly stop this flag run. But Descendant knows it's his job to run the flag, so that's what he does. Grabs the flag, Precision cleans up Formal, and it's just a matter of time before Envy secure game number 1 in overtime, 3-2. Absolutely clutch plays. This is how they would start the series, and this was just the beginning, as we would then go into Lattice oddball for game 4. At this point, Optic had come back in the last 2 games, so Envy need to win this to force the game 5 against a team they have never defeated before. Descendant does find another kill here to secure the victory, 2-1. Then we go to game 5. It's 43-43. Precision has the camo, and just look at the moves. He's juking out Formal. Let's watch it one more time. Formal trying his best to kill Precision, but the camo is too hard to shoot. He jukes left, jukes right, decides to juke forward, and Formal is just left helpless, doesn't have anyone here to help. All Precision's trying to do is buy time for the rest of his team to show up. Guess who it is? It's Descendant once again to the rescue, comes straight through bottom center, takes out Bound. Precision's down to 1 shot, stays alive, rotates through. Ultimately, Precision would get the last kill with the no-scope body shot into melee onto Formal, of course. And that is the biggest upset we have seen in quite some time. Optic, the #1 team in the world, upset by Envy, who secured themselves a spot in the grand finals. However, Shopify Rebellion were just too different on the day. This would be where the Cinderella run would come to an end, as Shopify Rebellion absolutely dominated. Take another look at this triple kill from Frost. He's got the Quantum Translocator. Portal's top cuts. He gets the 2 shots in. Portal's behind you. Yeah, this is an anime protagonist we're watching here. Gets the stick. Portal's out for safety for style points. And then at the very end, this was tied 2-2 in the Coliseum flag game. Cycle gets the first kill onto Yaxon, and Shopify is about to show you why they were undefeatable on this day. Perfectly executed push. Look at Last Shot coming in on the elbow side. Perfect timing on the flagpole, crossing straight across. Last Shot stays here just to block the spawns, shoot the spawners, so they have no chance to stop the flag. Ultimately, this flag would get punched in, and Shopify will win their 2nd HCS Open tournament in a row. They've been on an absolute heater. And these are the guys to watch out for. They won the most recent LAN tournament as well. So we got the LVT Pro League LAN finals coming up September 12th, and then HCS Charlotte coming up October 3rd. It's going to be a banger. Make sure you guys don't miss any of the Halo action. But until then, let's throw it back to the deck.
Thank you so much, Eli, again, giving us all of the updates there on live fire, anchoring all of the wrong spawns playing for Camo. Shout out Eli, of course, as far as his weekend is concerned. He is the Boomer League champion. Now I'm outseeing his age, so I won't give it a number. And then we got to give another office shout out as well. Envy off of that Herculean bracket run going in towards grand finals, putting demons to rest for Optic Gaming. You like to imagine that's thanks to our good friend, their Thug Nasty, Nick, putting in the work behind the scenes.
Of course, and we'll have to see how they continue to do as HCS moves over to Charlotte. We can't wait to attend ourselves and see some great Halo action, but we're gonna go ahead and put those controllers back up and take out the mouse and keyboard, because EMEA is going to jump in to see who heads to Paris for the rest of our regions. We still have 3 more regions for Valorant to go over. We only went over Americas, EMEA, we have Pacific, we have China. They're all heading towards Paris, and we'll see how each team gets there.
Yeah, we got the race to Paris, of course. Still to talk about, we were breaking down Americas earlier at NRG's success story and how they were able to make it to grand finals, thus losing to G2. But as Chris already alluded to, we still got to talk about EMEA. And although TL and Fnatic will be the two teams in attendance, there's still some up for grabs as things were continuing on throughout the entirety of the weekend. We got some games to talk about, especially in that lower finals in between Giant X and BBL. Giant X beating Na'Vi the round previous.
Yes, and here we go into this round, and they're already up 1-0 going, and I mean, they're just absolutely putting on a clinic here. You can see the confidence out of the team as they are taking these rounds going into map number 3.
Yep, and in towards that map number 3 would be the final conclusion of BBL's stage number 2. Very unfortunate to say because BBL started off this the entirety of this stage just so wonderfully, but the 3-piece there, Sheriff at the end on the deadlock pick, not something that you see all too often, is Giant X on the champions board, being able to beat BBL as alpha number 2. We saw that happen close within the group stage, but Giant X, by beating BBL, they will cement themselves going in towards Group A as EMEA's number 2, and thus a grand finals date with TL.
Yes, and well, they are set to face off against that final boss of Team Liquid, who's looked so good through those winners, and they're coming up and jumping into this grand finals. And I mean, what a process it was. A huge 4K to start off for Giant X to start off that game.
Team Liquid have just been absolutely on fire. You go back to like their or going back to Masters Toronto, like nobody would have had any of this happening. Big 5-piece there for the ace there at the end. 1v4 clutch, out of Westside, who was having himself an absolute day in grand finals, but it just wasn't enough to go up against TL. Like I was saying, this team has been absolutely humming going back towards Masters Toronto. They didn't have Nats. He had visa issues. They pick up Penny. They almost beat Paper X in the Swiss stage, and then they find themselves here as the full-fledged 5-player unit after one roster change came through to then be the EMEA champions, to then join the likes of Heretics, Fnatic, and now Giant X off of their run previously, Chris. Those are your 4 representations, but especially for Team Liquid to do it so dominantly, they don't have to play in the Swiss.
They don't, but let's go ahead and jump over to Pacific because we are still looking to see who our representatives will be on that side. We're taking a look at Talon versus RRQ going into this, and Talon, what a great game, number 1.
It really was. Talon have been absolutely on fire throughout the entirety of the stage. Came up utterly short versus Paper X there in the upper finals, but hey, who didn't versus Paper X, especially in recency, unless you are TL. But in this lower final, Talon would end up taking themselves a 2-0 lead going in towards the Corrode, Chris. This is where RRQ's practice really came afoot. Big old corner being played there by G-Boy. He's got to be able to take down 4, setting up what you would think would be an easy round win until RRQ's Viper, Money T, walks on in, and he was able to find himself 3 to force himself in towards a map number 4.
Yes, and here we go. As you said, there it is. They're taking that map number 4, RRQ, really setting us up going into this overtime here on the map number 5. They are trying to see who will go off and face up of Paper X in that grand finals, and what a back and forth series it was.
Yeah, it really was, man. Again, going so many different overtimes there on Sunset, but to see a reverse sweep throughout this many maps is so unheard of. You don't see it happen in Counterstrike because they don't play this format. You rarely see it in Valorant because it is so difficult to win that many maps in a row, not to mention the counter picks and then 2 deciders as well. Is this absolutely insane to be able to see all of that go down for RRQ to take down Talon, but even for the race, that would be the conclusion for all 4 teams going into Pacific, but still grand finals, RRQ hoping to get some revenge versus Paper X.
And well, they would try. We do see Jing coming out with this 4K though, and this is showing why they are that top team in the Pacific region. Just absolute domination.
Yeah, dude, Paper X has just been, I don't even know, man. This team is just built different. And I don't mean that because they have a Russian named something on their team, dude. Like, this guy has been playing out of this world. 14-11 here is already dead. See the blink going across the screen. Jenkin, only so much he can do. Gets completely blindsided. Does take down Forsaken, but still gets challenged because Patman says screw it. And Paper X, just with no hesitation, no second thoughts whatsoever, your Pacific champions. The number one Pacific team. I don't think anybody had any other doubts.
I don't think they have at all. Look at that, just once again lifting that trophy. They have had such an amazing run this year, continuing it on. But take a look at the champs groups here, and man, does that A group look scary.
It really does, man. That Group A is going to be something fierce, especially with Jai Gaming, Paper X, Sentinels on a champion stage. Again, they always perform out of this world, but we still have a lot more as far as like splits are concerned, because we still have to talk about like the Swiss stage to be able to fully encapsulate, or I'm sorry, not the Swiss stage, but like the opening matchups just to be thinking about. Paper X will be going up against Jai Gaming. Giant X will be facing up against Sentinels, but what I'm mostly looking at, you said Group A was a group of death. I'm looking out for Group number C, because Edward Gaming out of China have been absolutely playing fantastic. NRG are on the come up from their lower bracket run, and they're also in there with Team Liquid, your EMEA champions, who have been looking absolutely fierce, completely dismantling Team Heretics when they did play. I genuinely think that this is probably going to be the best Champions tournament that we've had in Valorant's history.
Oh, it probably is. And then we're looking at Group D, G2 Esports, and then up against T1, who has been a little bit shaky, but you don't know, they could turn up in this final moment when it matters the most. So G2 is going to have to stay on top of their game going into this if they want to come out on top, which we do hope they do. But we're going to go ahead and, move back over from the Valorant Spirit back over to the Rift, because again, we have more regions to go over, and we are going to be starting with LCK. And LCK had a banger of a week, and this was for one of the top 2 spots. We had Gen G versus T1. T1, if they could beat Gen G, would move into that second place spot over HLE with a better series score, and it would allow them to skip the first round bye in the playoffs. Let's go ahead and take a look at how that match played out. Starting with game number 1, we have T1 down. They are going to get a pick off onto Canyon and then start on to this Scion here. Raid Boss Keen, look at this, everybody is on top of him, and they are taking so long to kill him. They would finally get this kill and eventually go on to take game number 1. But let's take a look at this pentakill ruler from Ruler here.
I mean, like, on the Zeri, no less, just blasting everything. He's so protected, and I think, like, when you look back at Gen G versus T1, like the Epsilon story throughout the entirety of this year, it has been the setup for their hyper carry, specifically for Ruler on that ADC and Chovy in the mid lane. Their setups, their support top and jungle, just constantly putting themselves in success moments like that.
Finally getting that pentakill, not stolen away from his teammates on accident, but that leads us into game number 3 here, tied 1-1, and it would be all Gen G this match. They have just found the recipes for success after losing once to T1 earlier in the split, and unfortunately that means T1, despite having the same series score after an amazing round 3 through 5, they are just under in that point score there from HLE, so they move down to round number 3. They are going to have the playoff in the playoff round number 1, and that means that they eventually, if they win their match, will have to end up playing against Gen G most likely in that round number 2. But let's go ahead and move on to LPL here, as we had some amazing also games that determined who would take the second place in the LPL.
LPL is always a very interesting region as a whole. You get a lot of bright moments, especially for Billy Gaming. But we got to talk about, most importantly, the Shy. The Shy is just one of those guys that will always be open to making the hard plays happen. And on Mordekaiser in the top lane versus Scion, that's a big body matchup. But it's how he uses the ultimate in succession is what you really have to be on the lookout for here.
Yeah, and unfortunately you can't really see it here from this cam, but he is in his ultimate with the support, meaning that no one else can hit him, but he can hit that Nexus.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And there they go. IG just climbed the ladder. They take that second place spot from BLG because they were also tied. But look at that 6-game win streak from IG in the last standings. They are going to take that in stride. So of course we're going to have to wait for the Rise Knights rival tournament to go through to see how our standings will play off for them. But again, those number 2 spots have been coveted by both of those regions, and now we see who are finally filling out heading into their playoffs.
I'm just excited to be able to see what Mordekaisers are just going to be blindly picked as far as my rank games are concerned, and how much scammage is going to be happening once we do end up getting there. Like, I just like foresee just like he's going to like Mortal, like the jungle or some other hyper carry is going to get eviscerated, and then we somehow lose that team fight.
Oh yeah,
but, yeah, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. Look, to be able to utilize a character's full kit to be able to win the game, I think is something that you're going to have when you do go up to that international stage just in a few months' time. But that's just the LPL, man. We also got the LCP.
Yep, LCP did finish last week, and we are going to get to see their playoff bracket that they have now. Of course, these teams are also going to be trying to head their way into Worlds, with CFO looking so good at this top here. There it is. In that round 2, CFO and GAM did take those places, and now we'll see Team Secret, DFM, Vikings, and then PSG are going to be in that round 1 to see who they'll face in their opponents. And again, this CFO team, if they can win and make it to Worlds, they'll be the only team in League of Legends this year that made all 3 Riot national events.
If there's one team as far as the LCP to play upsets of that, who would it be?
Right now, it looks like it would be Vikings. So, I mean, I'm putting Vikings ahead of GAM right now. Both of those teams really close, but it did look like Vikings were a little bit on the up and rise throughout that later half of Split 3. GAM probably maybe the only other team that is at that level, but CFO just been so dominant right now.
Yep. Should be interesting to be able to see how that all pans out. Again, the playoffs are right in front of us as we are reaching our World season. You want to make sure that you tune in every single Monday so that you can join me and Chris as we talk more and more League of Legends. And although we have barely touched the graces as far as roster mania is concerned for Counterstrike, still waiting for that one to be talked about in the later parts of the show, we got to talk about some Call of Duty roster mania. And if you're unaware, the artist formerly known as Twitter was working overtime this past week, given all of the earthquakes that we've gotten throughout the roster mania that is known as the Call of Duty League. Going to be starting off, of course, talking about FaZe. And if you're unaware for Atlanta FaZe, well, they unfortunately will be breaking up the triage of the band.
An insane 6 years. I'm going to be moving forward. I'm going to be leaving Atlanta FaZe. This year was probably...
To all the FaZe fans, unfortunately, I will be leaving Atlanta FaZe after 7 long years of dominance. Our team's won it all. We won champs, we've won championships, the World Cup. It's been a wild journey, to say the least, but it's been fun overall, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I played alongside some of my best friends, my coaches, people I can say that are lifelong friends for me. So, I want to say I appreciate you guys, my teammates, my coaches, my fans, everyone behind the scenes, Eric, Paul.
Yo, listen, bro. I don't want to make it hot for him, but if y'all know how much he got, bro, yo, bro, you take that money, gang.
Bit of an emotional talk there, but I mean, BZ and Celium, I mean, these two are massive players coming out. We're looking at Celium, 11 times champions. We've had over 25 final appearances from these players. I mean, this is a pretty big breakup, as you've been saying.
Oh, absolutely it is. Again, you talk about the Silver Surfers or the most earnings for multiplayer is concerned. Absolutely big stuff, but we'll have to see where they do land. Kason already hinting that the bag that Celium took, absolutely worth it. But Paramount are looking to make a Call of Duty movie. You guys let us know what you think about that one in the comments down below. People want to be able to see TJ Halley reintroduce himself as an actor somehow, some way. But we also had this going on from the Halo scene, going in towards the Call of Duty scene. We know that the HCS might be going into a different direction for next season, but all of the Optic Halo team continuously saying that they are free agents. The owner of said gaming organization, Hex, said, not yay.
No, you're not. We'll have to see what's going on there, but again, Nations Cup preview here. We're taking a look at it once again.
Yeah, the Nations Cup announced there as the last week of the Esports World Cup is where we're going to be getting a lot of different teams representing their country. And, well, Zuma is taking this as an opportunity to represent it for a lot of different Call of Duty nations. We have a lot of good representation all across the globe. Shotzi Mamba from Mexico. Got to be shouting out Snoopy. Of course, he is missing from that. All of Team Rush from Natasha's time spent in Japan playing Call of Duty over there when Sony was heavily involved for Call of Duty back in the day. German teams, French teams, Australian teams with Fred, Jamaican teams. We're probably going to have a South African team because they also have a lot of different LAN tournaments that are happening there continuously throughout all of the years. But you guys let us know what roster you're mostly excited for down in the comments below, and which region is going to be taking the Nations Cup when we do end up having that tournament. And of course, shout out Tommy for Zuma for throwing off that tournament, because it should be an absolute delicacy to be able to see how the regions stack up against one another.
It is, and well, we're going to continue on the the train of roster changes here. And CS2, we are finally getting to them. And what better way to start off with the Liege leaving FaZe, or sorry, not leaving, replaced. And we can't believe they did it despite having a little bit of some success now. But FaZe releasing the Liege, probably one of their best top performing players here. It was kind of a question mark.
Yeah, North American scapegoat has been the tailored conversation around this office so far. But look, Kerrigan came out and simply said that they're going to pick up Jacob just because of the synergy that it might be bringing to the table. If you're FaZe, you're basically taking whatever sticks at the wall and you're running away with it going forward. But also coming away is going to be the CEO of VP, talking about that they are benching Electronic. And he was set to be the savior of VP and all the roster changes that they were making along the way. But turns out not the case.
No, and they're trying to make some major improvements, just not happening. I mean, this is kind of happening 2-2, but Snack stepping down from G2 as well. We're just on the part here. We do have a thank you, so this one seems a little more, you know, neutral between both of them.
To be
but
playing
let's take a look here.
Open with the team.
Yes.
And can you share with us what your future with Team Spirit is?
No.
That is some cold ice coming through from Zontix, because we know that he knows that these guys know on the desk. That guy's going to get replaced sometime soon, out from Tanier. We talked about at EWC. He continues to remain silent, whether that's on social media platforms or whether that's in that interview of what you just saw there with Freya. It doesn't matter what he may think or what he can perceive on camera. It's happening.
Yes.
It's happening, man. No, whenever that does end up happening is when it does end up happening. But is it going to be the right direction to continuously break up the entirety that was that team of Team Spirit? Again, winning back-to-back LAN championships is absolutely massive, but who knows? But that's not also the only ripple that we got to be talking about throughout the Counterstrike scene. Magix, he's back. And if you're unfamiliar with Magix, he was last located on Team Falcons. And the last time that he was on screen in a professional match, he was losing to MIBR.
Yes, he was. But as you said, after that 1-2 loss versus MIBR, he only dropped, what, a .98 rating, I believe, at that time as well. He's on Astralis now.
That is correct. Yeah, he will be replacing Stavin going forward, and we've been able to see the heights as far as Astralis is concerned ever since they introduced Hooksy as far as the IGL is concerned. And while Magix did have some time spent on Astralis back, I want to say, in CSGO. So although it has been some time away, those two mutual parties are back into agreement. Should be very fun to be able to see how Magix does impact that team of Astralis, who are still looking to take down some top dogs. Same conversation for TL to be able to improve their VRS rankings. But again, at the time of this recording, Blast London, all of those playoff play-ins are still happening at the time of this recording. G2 Spirit, what we're mostly going to be looking out for. But what are you most excited for when it comes down to this week of esports? More roster mania potentially for Call of Duty, playoffs for League of Legends, or the ever so driving Champions Paris as it is looming in the distance? You guys let us know in the comments down below. And of course, subscribe to the Global Gaming Network channel on behalf of Queued Up and all of the other videos that we do release on a week-to-week basis. We'll see you in the next one.